Hey YouTube, welcome to another Guide on the Inferno. This one's going to be centered towards learners, just like the Bofa guide was, which was one of my favorite videos to make. So today I'm back at it again on the main account this time. I've got, starting the intro really fast. This is just a get in there Inferno type video. So here we are. Got basically just a normal learner setup. 7 brews though, you could bring 8 if you'd like. That is like the one thing I would say, but might be cutting it a little close on prayer. The one thing I will say is I am bringing extra prayer regen. Probably gonna end with like 2 or so doses left, so that gives you an extra like plenty of time. So also can bring a Falador shield if you'd like, but do not have it on this account, or the Falador shield 4. I don't have it on this account at least. And no need to pray rigor. We're gonna pray minimal rigor, but we will rigor if we have to, because that's one of the things I'm gonna try to keep saying. Just a good kind of tip. You don't want to camp rigger ever. Not ever, I would say, but it's uncommon. You're gonna want to camp rigger, but certain waves it is nice. And most waves are just gonna start with an ice barrage in the middle of the nibblers. Sometimes you have to adjust. I have the middle tile that they're spawning on marked here, but sometimes you will see me adjust. But that's just so I know basically where to hover. And the blobs, actually, I do want to explain the blobs a bit better than I have in the past videos, so I will actually, on the next wave, try to explain the blob. So let me just try to kill the bat first, and then I'll try to explain the blob cycle a little bit. So we're going to kill the nibbler here. Flicking the blob here, but here we're just going to pray against the bat. I don't want it to drain us. Okay, so the blob has a 6-tick cycle. So when the projectile leaves it, that's the first tick you could think of it like, and the last tick would be the tick before it shoots. So basically, it scans on the 3rd tick after it attacks. So 1, 2, basically now. It's sort of hard to explain, but I'm not flicking it exactly right. So basically, you as a learner, you do want to sit here and do this for a little bit. I'm gonna start killing this now, but essentially, when you're learning for the first time, probably want to stop on this wave, do that for a little bit, just till you feel the way you want to be able to flick the blob on its own before doing any crazy things. So that would be the first thing I would learn as a learner. I would stop on a blob, even the first blob wave, which is like wave 4, I believe. So even just stop there for a bit and practice that. That's very, very important to be good at. Because you see, it's very natural for me to flick against this blob. And I am noticing these solves are a little bit advanced. I'm just actually going to go even simpler than this. I'm going to show you what you should do on the first cape, obviously. So I just can't pray range here. We're going to start in the start tile. We can go around the corner, pray the other thing against the blob. So this blob, when it first sees you, it scans your prayer. So it starts in the middle of the cycle that I just described. So if you think of the start of the cycle as when it attacks, when it shoots the attack, then it basically, so see when I round the corner here, it's going to immediately scan, and then 3 ticks later, it'll attack. 3 ticks later, it'll scan, and then 3 ticks later, it's going to attack again. So it's a cycle that you essentially have to get used to it. It's a feeling thing, but something that in time you get used to. On this wave, you just want to double blob. You basically want to try to isolate one blob from the other. That was pretty much all I did there. And I will be starting on the start tile. And I'll try to avoid the solves where I run up into the blobs, although if you see me doing that, like I will probably do that a couple times throughout the run, and you can obviously do that if you feel comfortable with it, but no need to. I'm just going to show how to play nice and simple, and again, just to reiterate, I'm probably going to have 2 prayer regens left over, so if you're playing it slow, you're going to have even more prayer to play with, and if you have a Falador shield, that's even more prayer. So even without the Ring of the Gods, and it should be noted, that is like the one gear switch you could make. You could bring Ring of the Gods, but if you watch this video and you see how much supplies I have left, you can kind of judge for yourself whether you think you need it, or obviously just in doing the Inferno, you'll probably come to see which supplies you need more of, or if you need more supplies rather. Because even if you need, say you needed another brew, and you were, say I got through this run, and I ran out of restores, and I ran out of brews, and I really wanted another brew, I could bring Ring of the Gods, and then I could ditch a restore for a brew, essentially. So that is one thing you can consider if you really need more supplies, either brews or restores. But really, this setup is really the best setup if you're learning. And if you have the GP for a T-bow, obviously, or a friend to lend you one. Obviously, Bofa is totally doable. But this is definitely the easiest setup, I would say. Can probably change a brew, you know, brew store for a brew, maybe. But really, this is as easy as it gets. So much defense as well, so you're gonna see, if I make mistakes, it's fine. So you see, like, I wait a certain amount of time after the blob attacks, and then I change my prayer. This is like the easy, lazy way to flick it. You see, I just change my prayer. You don't want to change, if I change my prayer too early, and I notice, I can change it back in time. So if you go, oh crap, I changed my prayer too early, then you just change it back in time. That's fine. But otherwise, you just lazily flick the blob. You can move to the blob like this. You could also move behind the pillar. It's really up to you, whichever you feel more comfortable with. But knowing how to flick the blob is very important, as I was saying. That's just what I wanted to show there. So I'm gonna pray range here. Now, if a blob sees me off the beginning, it's gonna scan your prayer immediately, and you can immediately switch your prayer. Here I'm gonna pray melee against the blob, and we're gonna hit the bat. You can pray rigor against the bat. This is like the one situation where I would say rigor's okay, but then you want to turn it off pretty much right after. And this isn't a speed run, but I'm gonna kind of try to move it along. I'm not really gonna waste much time. After, you know, I wanted to show the thing with the blob, and I'll probably show how to, like, one-tick alternate with the ranger, but after that, we're just gonna go full steam ahead. I'm a big fan of the no-cut type of videos. I mean, I don't know, I know the video's not for me, but I'm a big fan of the no-cuts. But I also don't want it to be too long, so that's kind of my mindset there. Here, even if you take some damage, it doesn't matter. I avoided most of the damage, but even still. This blob, you can always heal off of it, so it's really not a huge deal to lose a little health. Can repot regen, you always want to remember to do that. And you want to kill the blob on the other side here. Because you want to be able to Phantom Barrage it if you need help. So here you can move back here. And the Mage Bloblet's a lot more resilient to magic attacks, so you can just switch to Blowpipe there, always. This is 2 blobs, so see, it always scans you right at the beginning of the wave if it sees you, and then it's just doing the normal blob cycle. So that's all I did here to solve this. There's no like complicated knowledge here. Just knowing how to pray against the blob and not panicking on spawn, and also knowing that that meleeer would be trapped is very important. Most of the south spawns will trap behind the pillar here, so as long as you're standing where I'm standing. That's annoying. But here you should know you can always trap the meleeer here. I synced up the blobs. It is a little advanced, but even if you took hits, it's okay. And the thing is, you're also so tanky because of just the armor and the setup. I'm so excited to be making a video again because I just had a lot of fun the first time I made the Bofa guide. I thought it was a lot of fun. So there, I changed my prayer early and I realized it was like I was explaining. So even sometimes I'll mess up, and if you realize you mess up against the blob, you can just switch your prayer back fast enough. So that is like a good thing to know. It just saves you time. It's like, yeah, if the blob hit me, it's not gonna end the run obviously, but we'll take some time to heal up. So this is 2 melee, very easy wave. Praying range for no good reason. And every once in a while I'm peeking at my prayer regen timer just so I know when it's getting low. And kill the nibbler here. Always want to prioritize the nibblers, especially early on when it's safe to. You want to make your later waves as easy as possible. With the prayer regen potion, you can wait a little longer to restore, but I would say probably, if you're 99 prayer, probably around like 50 or so you can hit a restore. It's okay on the nibbler wave just to stay in your mage gear if you want to be lazy. May as well make it easy for you, you know? The Inferno is like a long piece of content, so it's good to do things that are sustainable. You know, you could solve every wave like some insane way, but at the end of the day, if you're a learner, like you're doing a piece of hard content for the first time, so you really want to just be doing solves that are simple enough at least. You know, nothing like, you know, if something's really, really dire, you can pray rigor. That would be like my recommendation if you have a really tough situation. These ways are pretty easy, bats and ranges. Bats and mages are a little more annoying because they don't have the same style, so it is a little bit more annoying, but these ways are very easy because it doesn't really matter the order you kill stuff. You don't really want to kill a blob early if possible, but other than that, you'll see I'm putting very little effort into the order I kill things. I would step behind if something dangerous, say there's like, you're gonna see on these waves I'm not really ducking behind the north pillar at all, because there's not really a reason to, but obviously when there's a blob, certain cases I'll duck behind the north pillar. So starting now we'll start to see that probably. And this is where the speedrunner in me wishes I had another Bastion potion. I don't want to be unpotted, but it's alright, I will live. So this is range and blob. If they see you at the same time, you can pray against both of them. You see, when I go around the corner, it actually sees me with mage here, and it's gonna range. That's like a bit of a weird situation, because you see the blob, it moved when I moved back here. It was slightly out of range, which like reset the cycle, basically, because it didn't have time to scan me in time. So here, that was the easy way to go around the corner. You pray mage until the blob is going to range you, and then you go around the corner because it just gives you plenty of time. No need to restore just yet. Want to kill this on this side always. Good habit. Always have the possibility of Phantom Barraging. And even if you just cast like that, you can Phantom Barrage by manually casting. You just have to manually cast the last time. Here the mage is tanky again, so we're gonna switch to range. So here we click the start tile, we put our mage gear on. Range pray. So this is what I mean by you can pray against both. Now the most important thing is that you pray against the big monster. So if you weren't sure there, you definitely just want to pray range, but here it's alright to kill a blob like this as well. Make sure you pray range against the ranger, obviously. Save the pillar. Want to keep the pillar healthy. Just keep good habits. You can even just sit here on the start tile, so that we're already on the start tile. Sip of water. Good habits. Put our mage gear back. And on the mage waves, we can start with the crystal shield on just to be even more tanky against the bats. I'm just letting these group up because I feel like that would be nice. Here I wasn't sure what tick the blob is on, so we're just going to tank some hits. And just going to show it. That's totally fine, basically. So here, this is a little bit advanced. You can step back. The bat will take an extra tick to hit you. And basically what happens is the blob will see you on mage, and then you can switch to range, but you don't have to do that. I just wanted to make the solve a bit nicer, I guess. Could have just tanked the bat or tanked the blob or whatever. Killed the bat. A lot of options. So some of these waves have multiple options. I'm gonna usually try to show the simplest one, or the one that just the one that I see the easiest, but I'm gonna try to stick to the simple ones. Here you can Phantom Barrage, which I guess I will. May as well keep some good habits. Don't have to flick Augury, not necessary. And there's no real need to be fast, because the prayer regens basically mean you have infinite time. That was a mistake, but it's fine. So see, what we're going to do is we're going to wait for it to scan mage, so it's going to range next, and then we've turned the corner with range. So that's like the easiest way there to go around the corner with a blob on you. And you'd do the opposite if it was a mage. If this ranger was a mage instead, then you'd pray range against the blob till it scans, and then pray mage and go around the corner. So it's the same thing, but just the opposite. And you're gonna see, sometimes I'm gonna have a blob and a melee. And in that case, you're so tanky in this setup that you can just kill something. In that case, usually the melee would be what you would want to kill. A lot of times you'll see, I'm just going to kill a melee on the later waves. If it's a melee that's problematic, I'm just going to kill it. Here you could Blood Barrage if you'd like. Probably should. Probably should Blood Barrage there too. So, it's okay. So, you know, that was arguably a hard wave, but you just kind of break every wave down. You have to kill one thing at a time, preferably in a good order. Make it easy for yourself. So there, I moved out to get an early hit on the melee before it got close enough, but no need, of course. Simple wave. So most of these waves just come down to safe spotting the melee, and if there's a ranger and a blob that you have to deal with at the same time, then one tick alternate. So it's like the majority of the solves here. And sticking around the north pillar just because there's only so many north spawns, so it's very unlikely there's going to be a bunch of stuff north, and even if there is, you can maybe move to the east side of the north pillar sometimes, so there's even things you can do then, but your default, like if you think you want to move somewhere, your default should be north. So here I'm going to go north. The only thing is a bat. That's very easy. So a lot of times what I'm paying attention to is what spawns here, here, and then in this spawn. And then on the later waves, if I go to this corner tile here, it'll trap whatever spawns in this spawn here. So that's also good. You'll see me go to that tile a lot. It's the so-called magic tile. So that's a good spot to run. Or just staying put at the start tile as well that I'm starting at is also a good spot to stick to. And 50 plus, just sticking to the 50 plus start tile is also just a good go-to. Unless there's something dangerous that's going to see you. Sometimes the major south can see you if you stand on that tile. The southwest major spawn, like here, if you stay standing here, can eventually see you if that pillar is up. So that is one thing to be careful. So sometimes, like if you're starting on the 50 plus start tile, which is right next to the bat safe spot there, then sometimes you want to move one into there, or you move from there to the magic tile. So usually one of those two you're going to want to do, just to either corner trap something or to stop something from seeing you, potentially. That was a mistake, just to show we're tanky. Looks like the gear setup's working properly, good shit. Sip a restore. Everything's going well, and like really these waves have all felt easy. I hope none of the solutions have looked super hard. I know like the first couple waves I was doing some speedrun solves, but... So here, just make sure I put my range pray back in time. If I took a blob hit, that wouldn't be the end of the world. Here the melee is going to see me eventually, but that's fine. And yeah, nothing... Really, if you took a blob hit there, not the end of the world. So really there, it's totally acceptable just to camp pray range. It is worth noting too, on the mage waves, when you're going to have Crystal Shield on, you're going to be really tanky to range. And if a blob sees you and you're praying mage against the major, it's going to range you and you have really good range defense. So I would just keep that in mind too. So like in this setup, you're like super overpowered. And especially on the mage waves, like just take your time with stuff, honestly, because even a blob seeing you is really not going to do a lot of damage on average, so... Not to say you shouldn't care at all about them, but in this setup, like, as long as you're using a crystal shield. So here, first time I see this basically happen, we're just going to pray Rigor here. Technically, you don't want to spec early like that. You want to spec to regen health, but it's alright. Took a hit from the blob, took another hit from the blob. Don't have to do this. Don't have to do this. Here you could just, like, stand here, let the ranger jag. And the reason we're praying Rigor here is because we want to get to the Nibbler, want to save our pillar. Pillar health isn't like the end of the world necessarily, but it's not something you want to mess with too much. Kind of want to... Here I'm just going to try to... I'm just doing my thing as fast as possible here so I can get to the pillar. It's not like the end of the world here, but... It is worth noting too, from max range you can Phantom Barrage the Nibbler again, so that's a good thing to know. Gonna try to react to whatever happens here. Here you can go north, and it's just Bat and Ranger, so that's safe. So that's all I thought there, nothing fancy there. Here I'm gonna show a simpler solution here. We're just gonna walk out, pray against the blob. Took a Bat Drain, but it's okay. And there, that might have looked complicated, but really I just... prayed the other thing against the blob and turned the corner. More or less. Okay, this is like definitely in the realm of speedrunning strats. Should have been praying... Yeah, you just want to pray against the melee here. I'm just gonna blood barrage everything. This is silly. Don't solve it like that. Just showing what not to do. Here you can Phantom Barrage this if you want more health. At the cost of a little bit of time, but not a speedrun, so... Then again, you know, this is 30, so pretty relatively difficult wave. You gotta be careful. I'm gonna brew here, brew twice here, and then restore. And pray range. There I saw that there wasn't a ranger in my sight, so I knew that it wasn't gonna see me for another couple ticks. If you were unsure, just pray range and then go around the corner. Here, you can pray against the bloblet. I think I've shown this before, but if you go out... Wow, that was not exactly how I meant for that to happen, but at least we saved the pillar. That was kind of the whole point, was to save the pillar, so I'd say it was worth it. Was a little unnecessarily risky though. But you do want to save your pillars a little bit early if you can. Here the blob and the ranger attack at the same time, so... But here, like, again, if you're not sure, then just pray against the big thing, obviously. So we'll just go here. So this is how you should do it. And again, if you miss flicks, then you have this to heal off of. And also the cool thing about this situation is basically the range is the only thing I can see you. So on the range waves, it's very easy. On the mage waves, you would have had to T-bow the mage first there. It's good to think about that though, because, you know, it will be the mage waves eventually. The other good thing about brewing is it gives you the defense levels for these waves, which is nice. Although, I wouldn't necessarily just sip one out of random, but I didn't like being 50 health going into a pretty hard wave, so I would really recommend, like, if you were lower health, I think I just did a stupid solve and took damage, so just don't do a stupid solve and you'll be fine. So here you can go like here and pray melee. So this is just melee stuff. A lot of times I focus on what can see me north of the pillar. That's what I'm thinking about a lot of the time. Or, I guess more accurately, what could see me on each side of the pillar. Like if I were to go to any side of the pillar. Here, That's just a little cool trick, but don't do that necessarily, but yeah, that does exist. Probably kill the Nibbler. So it's not like super important, like the run's not gonna end if we kill it a little later, but it would be nice to save a pillar a little. 33 is 2 rangers. Easy wave. Didn't realize that a prayer regen ran out, so it's good that I realized. Okay, we only did like 1 wave without the prayer regen, so that's okay. You want to try to use it as soon as possible, though. Here you can drag the other ranger in. Also, even if that guy melees me, it barely does any damage, so you could even do this. Like, it's not... The risk of it damaging you is not very... I think it maxes like a 20 or something. 19 or something. But... yeah, it's not that dangerous. So dragging the ranger in is kind of cool. And that's a way you can stop waves too. Like if there's a mage very far, you can drag a mage in by, say like a mage over here, you could come here and drag a mage in. That's a fairly common way to solve things. I mean, I wouldn't say fairly common, but it is a possible way to solve things, and it does happen sometimes. You could just keep your mage gear on here. And I mean, I would have mentioned this earlier, but I think it should be just obvious the way I'm playing. But I'm really not doing any prayer flicking. And there really should be no need with this amount of prayer. And technically speaking, the faster you kill stuff, the less prayer you'll use, but don't panic and do something stupid because I said that. You know, obviously take enough time to not die, but at the end of the day, like, just if you just keep on killing stuff, you're gonna use less prayer in the long run, I would say. So these waves are a little bit annoying, actually. They are, like, relatively easy, but it's the mage and the bat. So this is a situation where I'm gonna do exactly what I said the other wave, and I'm gonna drag the mage in. Wait for the bat to attack, and then I'm gonna go around the corner. It's a good time to like sip of water when you're killing a lone major. So far so good. You see, I always try to cast in the middle. And in the long run, that's just going to make my pillars take less damage because I'm going to freeze most of them most of the time. So if every wave I cast on as many as I can, sometimes it'll only be 2. Sometimes you get really unlucky and you can only get 1 of them. I can cast a barrage on all of these, and that's just... I can't pass that up. Yep, that was completely worth it. You can flick a little rigor if you want. It is pretty much a wash on prayer, I would say. So it's not gonna really... I think it would cost you a little more prayer than if you didn't, but if you're flicking it only on the tick you attack like that, it's very minimal, so it is up to you. But I would say generally not needed. You can be just lazy, and also should obviously know that this spot is good for saving the north pillar if your barrage hits any more than a 1, which clearly it does not. Clearly 1 is the max hit until it hits a 7. But yeah, it was kind of crazy. So here we wait for it to scan us and go mage, and then we go around with mage. That is the easiest way to do that. And always want to pray mage against the mage. That's like, I mean, I know that's obvious, but it's more important than any of the other monsters up to this point, so... Always make sure, like on spawn, try to be aware of where the mage is, so you know what you should be praying, basically. Obviously praying mage right at the beginning of the wave always, but, you know, adjust as needed. So that's basically and you know, obviously, like I was saying before, we're gonna look at the spawns that are north of the pillar here. So these three spawns essentially are like the main ones that we're gonna look out for. So if three dangerous things spawn on those three spawns, then like that's technically a hard situation, but then that also means a lot of times you could go like east of the north pillar. There's usually some solve there. Well, there's always a solve, but it just depends on how hard it is to find, really. You don't have to kill the bat here, because it's stuck on the pillar. You can just do that. When you can kill the major first, you want to kill the major first. Again, this isn't a speed run, so it doesn't exactly matter too much that the major respawns something, but you do want to keep that habit just in general, because it just saves you time, saves you effort, so it's just a good thing to do in general when you can. When you can do it without difficulty, I would say. This blob, if you kill it from here and you move in, the melee blob gets stuck on the corner here. So this is probably the best place to kill the blob. If a blob is stuck on the east side of the north pillar, probably kill it on that side. Getting close to time to prayer regen. We're going to start wearing the crystal shield actually, because it's really good for tanking all this stuff. Actually, like literally everything. Like I probably won't take damage here. So we're just gonna, look, you don't have to pray rigor here, I'm just doing it because I'm just tanky. Wow, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. Okay, the blob hit me twice at the end. Obviously, not the best solve in the world. Killing the bats was basically just so I can kill the mage here in peace. That was pretty much the point. Obviously, if you take damage, you have bruise. Don't go too gung-ho like that, but you should remember that usually, in general, you can kill bats with rigor on, so it is good to know. It's an option you have available. And I kill the rest of the stuff. So gonna wear Crystal Shield in the beginning of these waves now, just because. So see there, I see that the mage didn't see me, so I feel safe to do that. Now this is where you definitely want to one-tick alternate. And now this is something I would just practice somewhere, whether it's outside of the Inferno or whether it's the first time you see a mage. Figure out the most important thing is praying on the same tick the mage is praying. Like I was saying, the blob isn't gonna kill you here. So the most important thing is if you feel like you're off, make sure you're just praying mage for a little bit, and then you can get back into it when you feel comfortable. But you should know how to do this, so like, this is the wave where it's most likely to come into play, when it's like double blob. But you should probably just learn this as soon as possible if you're a learner. So now we can turn the corner. So when this one dies, we want to walk into it. It's like a good rule of thumb is like generally if you're gonna kill a blob somewhere kind of in the open, you want to move towards it. And the pillars are still healthy. That's good. We have some easy waves coming up because it's just melee and mage, which is easy. Kind of similar to like the range melee waves. Can keep Crystal Shield on for all these waves, even though I guess for this one it's not needed, but I guess it's a good habit. For the mage waves. For the range waves, not needed, and it's technically just yeah, it's not needed for the range waves because it's just a loss of magic bonus, but for the mage waves, can equip it, especially because like the bats are different. You know, you don't want to. You can pray against the bats in between the mage hits, but you know, for a learner, it's really not worth it, and you're so tanky anyway that it's really not even necessary. And like things like turning off my prayer here, just not necessary with this setup. With this amount of DPS, with this amount of prayer regen, with this amount of prayer bonus. And so I was saying you want to kill the mage first, but in a situation like that, you can just make it easy for yourself. And a lot of times you'll see the mage won't even respawn it in time, especially if you did some damage to the mage before. So here, I'll walk Crystal Shield just in case the bat sees me. We're going to cast again on these. Make sure we kill the Nibbler, and we try to kill the mage. And I'm really not praying Rigor. The only time I'm praying Rigor is if my DPS matters. And the only times my DPS matters are basically Jads and on, so after the Inferno waves are done. And basically if something's doing DPS to me, so if something's doing damage to you, then having Rigor on basically is a good shout. If you can, now if it's like a blob or something and you can avoid it by flicking it properly, you want to do that ideally, but... You'll see me do a variety of different techniques here. So here we're just, we'll pray Rigor here, kill the bat, because we have to tank the bat, so we'll just stick by the rule. Here we just, that be careful with, you could just cast another barrage on it there. Okay, so if the meleeer digs and I'm on the start tile here, I can always go around the corner and the meleeer will be trapped. So always know that. And then you should know, like, think about it in your head, like, even if you weren't allowed to pray against the bat, which I'm going to say basically you're not allowed to pray against the bat, but it doesn't matter because you're tanky. So that's pretty much the whole point of this setup as well, is like, I mean, the bat will still hit you sometimes because it's just an annoying bat. That's what bats do. But yeah, you gotta do what you can. The range defense of the setup though is actually crazy, so I find it really noticeable against the bats, even though like there it hit me once, but in general, like you'll find yourself not getting hit too much. Same thing with the blob. If you pray mage and the blob chooses to range you, then you'll also be very tanky against that. So here there's a blob. So I can tell I'm safe here. So here we wait for the next mage attack and then we start flicking. And the only thing that matters here is the mage and my timing with the mage. The blob is going to be fixed by the 1-tick alternate. So that's what you basically have to know. So the only thing I'm doing here is syncing up with the mage's attack. The blob doesn't matter to me. So that's the whole gist of this. So I pray mage for the last time, I go around the corner. And if you didn't get the prayer against the blob, that's not very important either. The last prayer against the blob, I should say. We'll kill this. We'll kill this. We'll kill this. Okay. Alright, we did it. Alright, yeah, that's pretty average, I'd say. So we just start 1-tick alternating, you know. That's just how it is sometimes. So this all looks complicated, but I'm just trying to simplify. One thing I want you to notice is obviously you wouldn't be talking like me while you're doing your first Infernal Cape, but it is worth noting that, like, even if you're not me, you still want to be kind of holding off on brewing in a situation like this. If I got hit like one more time, I would probably brew. But as long as you know for sure you're not taking damage, if you feel confident that you're not taking damage right now, you don't have to brew immediately, and it'll save brew in the long term. So that's like just really important to know. Like, it really depends on the situation. If you feel like you're gonna need to brew, then obviously use your brews. Like, they're there for you to use them, but make sure you prayer regen. I feel like this whole video is like me trying to remember to prayer regen, which is kind of funny, but here we can actually go around the pillar before the melee gets here. So this is a nice thing. I'm 2-tick alternating right now. This is a thing you can do. So they saw me at the same time, so if they see you at the same time, this is the 2-tick alternate you can do. But if you're not comfortable, you can do this. You can just do the one-tick alternate. So you can do your first cape with all one-tick alternate if you want, which is what I did. So it's up to you, but two-tick can be a little confusing. So some people just prefer only one-tick. This is a bit personal preference. You can sip a restore here. So you see this Nibbler, I'm not super worried about. We will save the pillar here though. So we tank a little bit of damage, we save the pillar. Now we can take our time on these. You want to remember when things are on the pillar. But it's not so important that I'm willing to die for it. But I am keeping it in mind. When there's a Nibbler, like even there, it seemed like I might have forgotten about it, but it was in the back of my mind. You always want to keep it in the back of your mind, so when you're killing Nibblers at the beginning of the wave, try to always remember how many are still alive, because it's like an important piece of information for sure. So here, definitely Crystal Shield Wave, because there's 2 bats. We're tanky with the Crystal Shield, so we don't have to panic here. So here, we're just gonna kill this with Rigor. Kill this with Rigor. We're just praying against the things that are hitting us. And then there we go. So now if the melee digs, we have to figure out what to do. You could be praying Rigor here too to make this faster, but you see the whole idea, like your mindset should be figuring out a way to take minimal damage and kill something. So I'm always trying to kill something, even though I'm not praying Rigor, I'm not potted, but I'm still trying to find a way to kill something, because eventually killing something is your goal. You could have waited for the melee to dig. You know, you can do all this a lot slower, but I'm speeding through the self-explanatory parts. Hopefully you could tell by the intro that I'm just, you know, I'm not messing around this one. I really mean business here, so. I want to see what the time is. I'm always curious to see what the time is at the end of these. Crystal Shield on. So just say you weren't comfortable flicking that there, which is fair enough because they could do a lot of damage to you. So here we go around the corner, pray against the blob. Pray against the mage. So here, we could put Rigor on here just to say, try to kill it before the melee digs, which we probably won't. If the melee digs, we can go in the middle of the west side here, and then we can flick against the mage and the blob. And here I'm just gonna one-tick alternate. And here, if the melee digs, we can go around the corner again and it'll be corner trapped, so it's the same as before. And here we could turn Rigor off. We want to save our prayer a little bit. And try to heal all the way to full. Again, if you were worried about that wave, then you could definitely brew up. Like when I was killing the major there, for instance, when I was killing the mage in the middle here, like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Overall, like, use your supplies if you have to. I'm avoiding it just because, like I said, if you start brewing up, then you're going to be brewed down. And then that's going to make your life a lot harder and just make it a lot harder to finish the wave. And sometimes you end up taking more damage because your range is brewed down and you're already taking a lot of damage. So really it depends on the situation, but sometimes it's like the right option. Like, it's really just the right play to brew. But sometimes it's kind of the wrong play to brew, and it would have been better just to finish DPSing something. Really, it depends on the situation. But especially against a melee, a lot of times you'll kill it first if you pre-rigor. So especially in a setup like this where you have so much defense. Like this, like the Justy Helm, the Echo Boots are a lot of defense. The Ring is even a lot of defense. We can just kill all the meleeers here. It's alright. Yeah, it sucks a little bit, but I don't like killing them twice, but it is what it is. So I don't know if I did it. I don't remember if I just did it there, but when this melee digs, you can move to this spot. It's right under this marked tile here. And that'll trap it, but you have to go fast enough. So as soon as you see the dig animation, you can click this tile basically. So you see I move here. This traps the melee. Don't have to know how to do that, but it is a nice tool to have. You can only do it like that. Like you can be, I guess you can be more south and it still works, but if you're any more north, it'll be too far north to trap. So up comes the range of mage waves. And the big thing to remember on this one, or on these ones, I guess, the upcoming 50 plus waves is it's kind of inevitable you're going to take some range hits, so you just want to always be in your tank gear at the start of each wave. Always start on this tile, because it's like the safest tile to stand on, protects you from the most amount of spawns while still giving you line of sight of the nibblers here. So here, very simple, wait for them to pull up. The major's isolated, so we're just gonna go over here, cast a barrage, hit the major. Easy solve. So some of them are easy, the thing is, these aren't all gonna be hard. That's kind of what I want to prove here. But at the end of the day, just take it one wave at a time. You want to make sure you're going into each of these waves healthy because the range can see you off the spawn, so obviously most of the time you're not going to get hit because you're in tanky gear, but it can happen, so you don't want to chance yourself. And also you just want to stay high health because just wave into wave, like wave after wave, it's going to help you to be high health. Makes everything less risky. If you make a mistake, you're safer. Just kind of just staying on top of the health and just the resources in general just kind of keeps you in a good spot. That's like a good thing to keep in mind. So like I am paying attention to this prayer regeneration timer. You know, I guess technically speaking, if you want to, you could actually just, it is probably technically worth it to brew and restore here. Unless you're going to be like dying for them, but hopefully you're not that tight on supplies. Here we're just going to kill all the nibblers here, all of them. Go around the corner. Actually, I think the easiest here is to just kill the mage first. Prayed rigor for a total of 1 tick there. Oh, the bat's still alive. It heals off of... I think when it hits you, it just heals 1. I'm not sure, but... You'd think I would know, but... That's like the one weird mechanic here. I think the bat... I think if it hits you, I think it heals itself. Maybe it's just any off prayer hit or something, but... Easy wave. I think it can respawn a bat, so it's good to keep in mind what it can still respawn, so just so you're like aware. So like I was thinking like, oh, if the bat spawns in the middle here, I'll just be ready to put my blowpipe on, kill the bat. It's good to think about like what can happen next, like things the mage can respawn, and thinking about the melee digging, you're good to think about because like eventually they'll probably happen, and then you want to just know what to do. I'm gonna try to just keep a spec in the reserve just in case we get in a sticky situation. I just think it's a good idea in general, so I'm gonna just keep playing safe. So I'm not equipping the Virtus here because we want to be as stanky as possible just in case a ranger sees us. Easy wave again. They're all lined up still, so I will actually go here, cast another ice barrage here, and now it's a nice easy wave. So far so good. I feel like none of the waves have been too hard. I feel like it's easy for me to say, but I really hope watching this, if someone's actually been watching the whole way through so far, I hope you would think that it hasn't been too complicated. I don't think any of my solves have been too over the top. There's like one time where I got to 50 health where someone might have gotten nerfs and brewed, and you know, if that happens, then by all means use a dose or two of brew. You know, be careful when you brew, you don't want to over brew. Like, sometimes people, maybe this dose of brew is an example of overbrewing, the one I just used, but I like having the defense levels. So it was actually more for the defense levels than the overheal. So we're gonna see if that probably does marginally help. I'm just assuming I probably won't need the dose later. So if I can make my life a little easier now, why not? Could have bashed it as well though, but rather save it for a little later. Make sure you have Prey Mage on. So there, I missed 2 prays against the range, but didn't matter. Here, we're going to cast again at the Nibblers. You have a period of time where you can cast again at the Nibblers if they're frozen in the middle. So be aware of that, and you can like go back to the start tile and you can cast on them like I just did. So here you could switch to Prey Mage. Obviously wait if you're not comfortable. I knew I could go there and be safe. But, you know, obviously be careful. I'm a little crazy. So I think these are going to be same ticked, so we're going to duck behind the pillar. There is a trick here, so this is actually kind of convenient. I can show you the trick. So if you step, you have to be all the way back, and then you can pray against the blob, and the ranger gets stuck there, so that's a good trick to know. And now the ranger can't see you here. So if the ranger's stuck out there on the mage, you can get it behind the blob by, you have to move all the way north. That's like a fairly particular like case, I guess, but you know, that is like one of the better ones to know, I would say. It just solves a hard situation for you. And then you kill the mage first, which just makes your life that much easier. Easy game, if I do say. So here, get a Phantom Barrage if we want. It's probably the mage that's alive. Looks like it died. Send 1 spec, but we're going to keep the other one for now. Oh, that was bad. Just showing what happens if you make a mistake. It's fine. So we're just going to put Tank Gear on, Pray Augury. Just get as much tank stats as you can. The mage is respawning, so we're just tanking. We're praying ranges for 1 hit there because the mage is respawning. That was a little, like, you know, don't exactly want to do it that way necessarily, but... So here, easiest way is a 1-tick alternate solve. So the easiest way here is you're going to step to the bat safe spot. Don't have to worry about the bat. You can just safe spot the bat. But here, I'm just going to step here. The ranger's not going to be able to see because the bat's blocking it, but was a little scary. It looked a little scary for a second, I'm not going to lie. I have to prayer regen, like super important. Not like, I mean, it's not the end of the world. I think we're going to have enough prayer, but do want to do it ASAP. Oh, I've had it. I haven't had one going for a couple ways now. Oops. It's fine. Sip a restore. We got 7 restores. We got, yeah, like we have so many. You could take 2 of these if you wanted to as well. I think 3 is probably the right amount for most learners. So like if you're not sure, I would say take 3. But if you're like a little bit on the faster side, you know, by all means go for 2. Or if you feel like you forget it sometimes like me, then you could also take 2. Because I might end up only, well, I guess... Yeah, I mean, I'll probably use about 2. All the tank gear on. So here I can go to this side and pray range. So I'm gonna explain. So before you go getting angry at me that I just did a crazy complicated solve and you don't like me anymore and you don't like my video, I can convince you, okay? No, but seriously though, the thing is, if I didn't do this solve here, I think was the easiest solve. I think if you didn't do this, you'd have to just do something harder. So like, honestly, like this was the solve I would recommend. You should remember if you're in like a corner tile like this, see the bat gets corner trapped. That's like good to know, but I am sorry though. Like I'm sorry, it was a little bit complicated, but also I do genuinely think that's the best. This is a little complicated. It wasn't that complicated, so you just want to make sure you don't do it when the ranger's attacking because you don't want to miss the range attack, obviously. Praying against the ranger and the major. generally the most important, as I've been saying. Don't have to pray Augury, but just want to make sure I heal a little bit. Do a Rigor Blowpipe spec, do another one. Keep our prayer off a little bit. We're getting to the point though where we have plenty, but it's okay. Can be a little conservative still. You want to be a little conservative on your first cape, but you do want to use your brews when you have to. So we take one range hit there. So I'm trying to think, right now, I'm not thinking about how to solve it, I'm thinking about how to explain how to solve it. So okay, there's like two options here. So one option is go west, but then you'd have to make sure the range and the mage are off-ticked in a way that you can one-tick alternate the blob, or two-tick alternate with the blob. That's a little bit hard, so I think what the easiest thing to do is click over here, and then we just one-tick alternate the mage and the blobs. I think that's definitely the easier way. So we're going to click here after the ranger attacks, and then pray mage, and then we're going to start one-tick alternate. And just because it's like a little bit of a hard wave, we can pray Rigor. And just in case the, if the blobs hit us there, we could have Rigor on for more defense. So here we'll just Rigor to kill the mage here, because this is a bit of a hard wave, and you might be nervous if there's two blobs on you. So this is like one situation where, yeah, it's fine to Rigor for here. You don't want to keep it on, but in a situation where you might feel nervous, like, do it, I would say. Most of the time, unless you're like really hurting for prayer. So there I just realized when the blobs attacked, we can just kill the blobs here. As long as you move into them. You always want to move in towards them. Flick the blob here. I'm flicking the blob here. I'm flicking the blob here. Put my range gear on. I'm flicking the blob here. And I'm flicking the blob here. And then I'm gonna move back here. And now we're all good now. If we want, we could do the ranger first. So we have a Phantom Barrage target, but we could just kill this first. In all likelihood, you gain HP from these. Sometimes you lose HP, but 99% of the time you... Maybe not 99%, but majority of the time you definitely gain HP. Even if you tank some. So long as you have decent mage gear. Alright, so getting to the late waves, just want to play safe. So want to move to the side where only one thing can see us. Start hitting the mage immediately. You could pray Rigor here a little, like if you're worried. You should know that from this spot here, you can actually move like diagonally and trap the meleeer. But if you didn't know that, then you could also go south of the pillar and off-tick the mage and the ranger when the melee digs. Or you can just pray mage and hope that I think the best way, like, my truthful recommendation would be just to hope that these are off-tick and keep praying Rigor, so you kill the mage fast. The thing is, also you're in such tanky gear that it's kind of possible. But here you can turn off Rigor. The gear is just so tanky that what could be considered a huge risk, like now with this setup, with the Suffering, with the Echo Boots, with the Justy Helm, and even the Vizori and everything is so tanky, like, you're very unlikely to even get hit by the melee. It's probably like 50-50. It's quite unlikely. Maybe like 40%, who knows. So here, go here, pray range. Only because I can see the major. If you can't see the major there, then be a bit careful. But I don't want to be tanking the ranger longer than I have to, even though I have tank gear, but you don't want to be taking unnecessary hits. Here, it's better to kill the mage first, so you could off-tick these if you're comfortable. The problem with... Or you could kill the bat maybe and go to that side. So we're just gonna kill this again. Same solve. Easy peasy. And the thing is, so this is another situation where there's a, you know, there's some other options, but really this is probably the easiest one here. So it's another situation where I'd say if you're serious about learning the Inferno, I would say try to, you know, be comfortable off-ticking like this as soon as possible. Not to say you should immediately be comfortable with it, because obviously it's going to take time to learn, time to get used to it and everything, but I definitely think it's just such a good solve for certain waves and certain situations. It just gets you out of problems sometimes, so I would say it's definitely good to know. Already 58, we're blazing through this. 60 minutes in, which is not a lot. Can pray Rigor at the start of these waves or Augury if you want to. Here, you should know you can move the mage from this spot in by going to this corner tile, which also happens to just be a good tile to move to most of the time because it'll trap a thing in a certain spawn over here. It'll corner trap a thing. Here we can save the pillar. Don't have to pray against the bat, but it is nice. But seriously, like, try to seriously think about how important certain things are to pray against. Like the bats, when you see me praying against the bats, probably not exactly necessary. Here I'm just hoping these are off tick. Okay, well that was nice. I didn't get bothered by the melee. So that's also a thing, especially north of the pillar here. Sometimes if you step under the melee, he tends to get stuck because there's not very much room to move around. So that is very nice. I'm gonna make sure we re-prayer regen. That's an important thing to remember. Alright, wave 60, so this is usually, actually I would say 60 or 61, you should probably use your first Bastion dose. I would say 61, so we're actually just going to go by that. So here, we tank the blob hit, but it's okay. We're actually going to just save the pillar. So the cool thing there is even if this melee came around the pillar there, it would be corner trapped here. So either way, the melee is safe spotted. We just have to remember when the mage dies, this blob will come around, so praying Rigor here is totally fine just to make this easier. When you're on 60 plus, like anything goes here. We can pray Rigor whenever now. Could probably just camp Rigor now, to be honest with you. So I'm not gonna, maybe I won't, but using it at the start of the waves is good though too because of the defense actually, so really not even a bad recommendation to just camp it 60 plus maybe. 61 plus at least, because being able to kill the bats easily is pretty important. Yeah, we have plenty of prayer really, but I'll be a little bit conservative just to. But I do think the most important time to have prayer up, if anything, is at the beginning of the wave. So I'll just use it here at the beginning of the wave at least. Zip a restore. So here, just using Rigor on the mage to kill it ASAP. If I wanted the ranger not to come around the pillar here, like he's doing, I could have stepped further east. The ranger would have got trapped behind the pillar. Maybe preferable. Ooh, okay, just pretend it didn't happen. So this pillar might die. It's kind of fine though. At this point, we're like very late in. You have to be aware of how far into the run you are. So right now we're like very close here. We're just gonna try to kill the major. So unfortunately, oh no, they actually were off tick, so that would have been fine. But I thought they were same tick. It's all right though. But it's just a situation, you see how I make sure I keep Mage Prey on because we're very tanky, but we're not so tanky against the Major, so you don't really want to play your odds against the Major hitting big on you. We'll just probably let these take the pillar. We don't really need that pillar anymore, so it's kind of fine. Really whatever. So we can just kill this here. Could also kill it behind the pillar at like the Phantom Barrage spot if you wanted to, just so you know. But we're very healthy. But obviously, like, you should play more conservatively if you want. So here, just keep Rigor on. The reason we keep Rigor on is just because at the beginning of the wave, tanking a range hit with Rigor on is a lot less damage on average, just because it has a less chance of hitting you. There, it hit us anyway, but can't do anything about that. Oh, want to make sure... I forgot to even pot up, so actually, when my timer ticks down, I'm actually just gonna pot up. And you don't have to pray Rigor here, but you can. So if you have this much prayer, this is like a lot. Also, if you're playing it slower, then your prayer regens would have had more time to work, so that kind of balances it out. If you're thinking to yourself like, oh, but I'm gonna be slower, and so it's gonna make me use more prayer, it really won't at the end of the day, because you're just gonna have more time for your prayer regen to tick, which is really just a good thing, and just gonna end up evening out the prayer situation for most people. So I would say like for most people, this setup is gonna be able to get you to Zuck. Maybe with one more brew instead, depending, but you see this ranger not super likely to hit me. Although he could, which he did, but... Oh, be careful there. We're just gonna one-tick alternate here. Can do the trick, so if the melee digs, we can pray mage. If the blob hits us, it doesn't matter. And we can just move to that safe spot. Could even pray against the ranger. If you could just ignore the blob. If the blob hits us, is no big deal. So what I'm doing here is pray mage, pray range. And I know when I'm here, the meleeer can't see me. I didn't care about the blob because I know the blob's not going to kill me. And start one-tick alternating. And nice and easy. That's like one of the hardest waves. So I just take it one thing at a time, basically, is the gist of it, I would say. You want to simplify it and see, like, the two blobs on the pillar I know how to deal with. So the fact that this ranger here, the rangers here doesn't really matter, like, there's a lot of stuff doesn't really matter. As long as you're simplifying it to a situation that you're used to, then it's not too bad. Here, if you want, play it simple and drag this thing up. Don't have to pray Rigor, I'm just feeling the speed of the bash and potion hitting, so I'm getting a little excited. It's alright. So definitely gonna, you can pray Rigor at the start of the wave. This is not necessary, you can just hit the meleeer with the T-bow. We can just kill the meleeer here. Easiest solution, just kill the meleeer, kill the major, safe spot the meleeer that digs if you need to, and then just kill the meleeer again. Pray against the ranger and then go around the corner. Make sure you pray against the mage, of course. Praying against the mage is always the most important, top priority. So here, go around the corner. Make sure you're doing it at a time where the major won't hit you. And you can pray against both the mage and the range there. After the range hits, go around the corner. You see how I time going around the corner? That's another one of those things where you might think that's like a little bit too precise, but I would say it's definitely something worth learning early, because it just solves so many waves for you. So again, praying Rigor. You could also pray Augury if you wanted. I like Rigor just because I'm just going to end up using a range weapon next probably. Here we back up, pray range. I'm going to let these things settle, because I think the mages... Oh no, it's okay. It's a little annoying. So, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna kill this. So basically your options here are go out at a good time. The other option is you could splash on the major, but if you accidentally hit, which is like I think it's like a less than 10% chance, then they'll hit you on the same tick. But what you could do is you could pray range, and then if you splash on the major sees you 2 ticks later, or will attack you 2 ticks later. So that's an easy way, but it's risky because if you fail if you fail as in succeed the hit, then you will take damage. But here, we're just gonna go for a fairly simple thing. We're gonna It's not that simple, but at least it's not risky like a splash off tick is, because I wouldn't want to show a risky method. But sometimes if you're just doing a casual run, you could try the splash off tick if you're feeling a little risky. So there, I was just trying to make sure I obviously praying against the mage really is like the believe it or not, it's like almost more scary the one mage than the two rangers. So just make sure you keep praying against the mage. The rangers are obviously still dangerous, but here we just have so much prayer. That's why I'm just camping here. I really didn't want to camp, but we're kind of at that point. Here, we're just gonna pot up. Oh, we're just going all in here. Make sure you pray regen. Can let the nibblers eat on the last wave. We're gonna have to kill them eventually anyway. It's okay. So these, you just want to make sure that you're not gonna kill one of them. I think I can hit this one again, but now I'm gonna hit the other one. Don't want to let them respawn each other. 4 restores for the rest of this should be plenty. Even in a normal situation, it would be plenty, but considering that we have prayer regen ticking the whole time too, it's definitely gonna be plenty. We can kill either of these first, it doesn't matter. Just as long as they're both pretty low. Alright, perfect. We can heal to full. And then we can just kill these. Alright, and this is Jad, so this tile here, I'm not going to pause. I never pause. I'm not a pauser. So this is the Jad star tile. We'll have my tile markers linked in the description if anyone's interested. But I would always recommend Rigger on Jad and On. So here, even if you were a learner, I would just say always camp Rigger this part and on. If you're very low on prayer, you could be forced to be conservative, but in most cases, I'd say you probably want to just pray Rigger. You don't have to Ice Barrage there. You could just T-bow all these. I would say that's probably the best. And then you should know you can move back 2 tiles. In this case, it lets one of these meleeers hit us, but in some cases it'll trap them all nicely. But here it's a little annoying. One healer on you, not the end of the world though. One minor detail I'll mention is I have the Ring of Suffering on, but I have the Echo Boots off because I don't want them. If we were in a situation here where I had none of the healers on me, I don't want the Echo Boots to proc and hit a healer and make it aggro me, because that just would make me take damage for no reason. So even though I'm losing a minor bit of DPS from the Echo Boots being inactive, I prefer that over potentially having extra damage taken on Jads and triple Jads. Just a little minor detail I thought I'd mention there. Here you could I don't know, I have like little weird habits I do there. You don't have to do that. Here I'd brew up all the way. So here, just pay attention to the next Jad. So just always be ready to pray against the next Jad. And this is all about remaining focused, not panicking, and just continuously praying against the next Jad. It almost sounds boring to keep repeating it, but that's really what it is. It's just a repeating cycle over and over. So we're just gonna keep praying against the next thing. And that's literally all I'm thinking about. I'm like, alright, I'm praying against the next thing. Alright, I'm praying against the next thing. Alright, I'm praying against the next thing. Praying against the next thing. Keep going. Next thing. And in this gear, it's very rare that the healers are gonna do enough damage to be an issue. So it's one less thing. Not that you don't have to worry about it at all ever, but not so likely. Just keep praying. It's gonna last a while. Like sometimes you just noodle on the Jads. It just happens. So you just keep praying because that's all you can do. All you can do is keep praying. Gonna sip a prayer. So knowing which F key your prayers is on, very helpful, I will say. Sorry for the mobile boys. But F key's OP. So because that healer behind the healer I tagged is stuck, it can't heal Jad, so I don't even have to tag it. In fact, tagging it would just be a waste of time here. So it's not a big deal if you do tag it, but you should know there's certain situations, like also if there's a healer on the south of me right here, then I wouldn't have to tag it either, because it can't hit Jad from there, or it can't heal Jad from there. So that's a good thing to know as well. Yeah, so you'll see at the end of this run, I actually ended up having like a full prayer regen left. So that's actually quite a lot. Plenty of brews though. I even used some a little bit liberally on the waves, which is the plan, so. Keep praying. Don't lose focus now, because one Jad has killed people before, just saying. Don't ask me how I know. Don't have to blowpipe that either, by the way. Don't have to pray melee against that either, by the way. So here, if you move south, it won't trap the healer. I just know this because I've tried it so many times. You actually just untrap it, so. But if you could tag the healer here if you weren't sure. It's not the end of the world. Here, make sure you're praying Rigor. I'll make sure I'm Bastioned fully. If you have that many Bastion doses left, it's okay to Bastion here. Or re-Bastion here, rather. And you always want to right-click on the cutscene there to get the first hit off early. We're going to try to do this very simply. We'll probably use a dose of Stam, even though now with the new Stam update, you really don't have to, but we'll still do it, probably. Actually, we're going to prayer regen now, just so we don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about it, like, later. So now the whole fight it'll be ticking, so that's nice. So now we don't have to think about prayer for quite a while. The first set, it always spawns the side of the shield, like whichever way the shield goes first. So shield went mage side first, so it's going to spawn the major first. Or it's going to spawn the set when we're by the major, rather. So here, we'll tag the major. Move to the next safe spot. Hit Zuck while we're waiting. Not necessary. Move to the next safe spot while blowpiping the ranger. If we get hit, we send a blowpipe sec. Or we can just send a blowpipe sec. You want to keep getting to the next safe spot. Repot as soon as you can. So we still have 3 doses of brew, that's plenty. Using 1 dose of Bastion for the first set is totally fine. Probably expected, I would say. Really, if you do the first set like I just did, if it goes mage side first, that's pretty much exactly what you want to do. If it goes range side first, then you want to kill the ranger as fast as possible. And if you don't kill the ranger in time for the shield to go, like once the shield gets this far, you can't blowpipe the ranger anymore. So if it gets to this point and it's range side first, then you just might have to improvise. Like maybe you have to brew up a little on this corner here. But, if you have anywhere close to as much brew as I have, and in some cases you'll even have brought another brew into the Inferno, like I was saying earlier, like 8 instead of 7 like I have, so. Really depends on the situation, but hopefully you'll have plenty of brew at this point, or at least enough. But you'll see, like, I still have 2 resources. I'm camping a lot of prayers that I don't have to either. But try not to think too hard about it, like just try to make sure you're doing most of the right things. Make sure you tag this Jad. The important thing too is when you see the XP drop, it looks like it's gonna proc. So that's this one. I'm getting ready to hit the Jad. Don't want to let the Jad hit the shield. Gonna hit the stamina. Don't have to do that when Jad spawns. Obviously, probably do that not when Jad spawns. Here it's okay. We have to wait for Zuck to hit. And now we're gonna do this. Well, I was ready to flick my prayer if I needed to. Don't have to pray melee, obviously. Gonna just run all the way here because I realized I was kind of lagging behind a little bit. So you see how I kind of ran and just caught up? So sometimes you make a mistake and it's okay. A lot of times you can fix a mistake, so try not to panic if possible. I just realized I was getting a little bit behind, so see now I see him attacking, I'm moving towards the next safe spot. See him attack, I'm gonna move towards the next safe spot. You can pray melee here against the healers if you want, but not needed. Okay, so here I think I'm pretty comfortable sending it, but I think I wouldn't recommend a learner send it. So I'm just gonna wait. So right now the in-game like login timer is 1:33:30. So we're just gonna see how long it takes. Or I guess you could look at the Inferno timer too. You're actually probably good to brew up, restore. I'm not gonna bash in it because I mean, it's a very minor detail, but I don't want it to tick down and like lose a level. So, but I am ready to hit a mage if it spawns here. I want to save the shield. So here, if the set spawns now, I'm ready to range. I'm ready to kill the ranger rather with blowpipe. This is how I'm thinking. I'm like, okay, if the set spawns now, I'm gonna range. I'll just bash in here. Surely it's gonna spawn in the next minute. And you want to be careful. I hit it at a kind of close HP where I almost could have procced it, but I knew I was barely safe. I think I hit like a 70, and I'm a max at 75, so I wasn't chancing it, but it was a little close. Just make sure you're not cutting it that close. Here, just T-bow in case the mage spawns. Here we have blowpipe. So you see, like, with this amount of time, it was at least, so far it's been 1 minute 20 seconds, so plenty of time to send, and just, we'd maybe get another set during the healers, but that's not a big deal, we can handle that, especially if we've killed all the healers already. But it's alright, like, if you're not sure, you can by all means just wait for the next set, this is what I'm doing right now. I'm just showing you the safe strat, you just wait for the next set, I get to yap more, you know, win-win. Everyone wins. So. But let's see. It's probably gonna spawn here. It's been 2 minutes now. We've had a whole 2 minutes to deal with the healers. So we could have procced and we could have had 2 whole minutes to deal with the healers. So I will admit, like, this is a completely useless wait here. I'm just gonna sip a prayer regen. Like, I'll sip a stam. Really, like, these are unimportant things, but I'm just so I don't have to look at it later. And it's gonna make healers as easy as possible. This is the longest. I have never waited this long for a set to spawn in my entire life. Guys, I'm so bored. I'm out of things to say. Spawn already. Stop. Just spawn. I don't want to wait for a set anymore. It's been... Oh my god, it's been so long. Thank god. We're just gonna probably kill this set. We'll probably just do it's the easiest way, right? So we'll just do the easiest thing. Technically, you don't want to kill the mage first. I'm just trying to show, like, look how tanky we are. Okay, it's a little scary, but it's okay. We can heal now. Okay, so important detail here. You might be like, oh, why are you not blowpipe specking? And the reason why is because I want to have both for healers. This is like actually a very important little detail. So you're gonna see. So now I'm pretty much full HP. We proc healers. Have redemption if we want. And you see I zigzag there because there's a little invulnerability period. That was a little scary. Probably don't do that. And I'm just moving with the shield. Just keep blowpipe walking. Keep killing a healer. If you keep killing a healer, they're all gonna die soon enough. Careful about moving out like that. I moved out like the first possible tick. Be careful. And now you can heal. Another minor detail there, words are hard. Another minor detail is that you see that I tried to wait as long as possible to brew, and that's another important little thing. It's kind of like the same thing as on the, like during the Inferno waves, kind of the same mindset. It's like the longer you can wait, assuming you know you're not going to take more damage or enough damage to die. In the case of the healers, it's just they're very consistent damage, so you pretty much know if you're going to die or not. Here we probably kill Zuck before another set. If there was another set, we just deal with it. I think our shield is still healthy enough. And it's healthy enough because we kept it healthy enough, essentially, so... Ooh, nice. No luck required. Let's leave the CC. Oh, I guess... Oh, that was rude, actually. I just left the CC. Well, they're probably gonna grats me. That was rude. I'm sorry. I won't be rude. No luck required. Pretty good PB too. It's not bad for a first cape. Like if you get a first cape in under an hour and 30, then obviously that's very good. But yeah, I wouldn't feel like pressured to be as fast as that. Look at the supplies I have left. So I was a little bit liberal with the Bastions, but I had extra brews, and I only brought 7, not 8, so extra restore, extra prayer regen. And again, if you needed more restores or brews, I would say you could bring a Ring of the Gods. So that would be like the one gear substitution I would say you could make. But other than that, that was my Inferno guide. I hope I explained Blob semi-well. Basically, there's a lot of situations in the waves there where I could have one-tick alternated, but I did a slightly different method. Most of the time, one-tick alternating would just solve, I would say pretty much all the time, one-tick alternating would solve the wave in that situation. It's just, sometimes there's like a situation where I just don't want to click that much, because one-tick alternating is a lot of clicking, so certain other methods are less clicking required, but generally speaking, this guy's going for his cape right now, probably. Good luck to him. And good luck to anyone who's trying to get their cape. I'm sure you could do it. If you have any questions about anything, whether it's gear setup, anything, any of the mechanics, I'm always watching the comments of the video, so by all means, always keep it in touch with the content, the comment section of the YouTube video. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Good luck to this guy on his Inferno, and peace out. See you on the next one.